In 2012, a single photo threatened to destroy everything IU had built. At that time, she wasn't just another idol, she was nation's little sister, the pure, gentle figure the public felt protective of. Her image was carefully constructed yet seemingly effortless. Soft vocals, shy smiles, modest styling, and lyrics that felt safe enough for parents and teenagers alike. Brands trusted her, television loved her, families adored her. In an industry often driven by bold reinvention and calculated edge, IU represented comfort. She was the girl you could root for without hesitation. Then, overnight, that image cracked. A photo was uploaded, allegedly by mistake, showing her alongside Eunhyuk in what appeared to be an intimate setting. The lighting was soft. The distance between them felt personal. Context was missing, but speculation filled the gaps instantly. Within minutes, Korean online communities exploded. Screenshots spread faster than clarifications. Headlines multiplied. Comment sections turned ruthless. Was it proof of a secret relationship? Was it evidence that the innocent persona had been an illusion? Or was it simply a private moment exposed to a public that demanded perfection? What made it devastating wasn't just the rumor, it was the contradiction. Her brand had been built on purity, and now that very branding became a trap. Silence followed, and in K-pop, silence can be louder than confession. The same public that once protected her began questioning her authenticity. The scandal did not just challenge her reputation, it forced her to confront a brutal truth. When your power comes from an image, that image can also become your greatest weakness. Long before the fame, before the headlines, before the title Nation's Little Sister, IU was simply Lee Ji-eun, a child who learned far too early that stability can disappear overnight. Her family was not always poor, but when financial hardship struck, it struck hard. Debt swallowed comfort. Security dissolved. At one point, she and her younger brother had to live separately from their parents, staying with their grandmother in a small, cramped room. Winters felt colder in tight spaces. Meals were modest and sometimes uncertain. She later shared that there were periods when food had to be stretched carefully, when survival required quiet endurance rather than complaint. Poverty did not arrive dramatically. It settled in slowly, reshaping her childhood into something far heavier than it should have been. But hunger was not only physical. There was another kind, the hunger to escape. Relatives doubted her dream of becoming a singer. To them, the entertainment industry was unrealistic, especially for a girl without connections or money. Some reportedly mocked the ambition. Others dismissed it gently but firmly, as if protecting her from inevitable disappointment. In those moments, music became more than passion. It became proof that she could be more than her circumstances. She listened obsessively, memorized melodies, and imagined stages far larger than the small room she slept in. While other teenagers worried about popularity at school, she worried about how to change her family's future. So, she began auditioning, again and again. She faced rejection repeatedly, reportedly more than 20 times. Some agencies did not see idol visuals, others said her tone was unusual. In an industry calibrated toward perfection, she was told she didn't quite fit the template. Each rejection carried weight, because failure did not just mean a missed opportunity. It meant returning to the same fragile reality she was trying to escape. But desperation can be powerful fuel. She practiced longer. She trained harder. She sharpened the very vocal color that others once questioned. Eventually, she signed with Loan Entertainment, not because she was the obvious choice, but because her voice carried something different, a texture shaped by lived experience. Pain had deepened it, struggle had steadied it, and although no one knew it yet, that same voice would one day resonate with millions who heard their own quiet battles reflected back at them. When IU finally debuted in 2008, it was not the triumphant launch people imagine today. There were no explosive headlines, no instant viral success, no roaring fandom waiting outside music shows. Her debut track, Lost Child, was emotional and vocally demanding, far removed from the bright, catchy formulas dominating K-pop at the time. Instead of applause, she was met with indifference. Some live audiences reportedly remained silent, others reacted coldly. For a 15-year-old girl who had fought through poverty and rejection just to stand on that stage, the quiet must have been deafening. The industry can be unforgiving to newcomers who do not immediately generate buzz. IU was not marketed as a powerhouse dancer. She did not debut in a large, high-budget group. She stood alone, carrying a ballad that required listeners to slow down and feel, something the fast-moving idol scene rarely prioritized. Early performances were technically solid, but public recognition lagged behind effort. The dream she had chased for years suddenly looked fragile again. What if the critics had been right? What if her voice truly did not fit? Then came adjustment. Instead of abandoning her core identity, she pivoted strategically. In 2009, she released Boo, a brighter, more playful concept that showed a different side of her personality. The styling became youthful and quirky. The energy shifted, the industry began to notice. But the real turning point arrived in 2010 with Good Day. The now legendary 3 high notes at the song's climax were not just technically impressive, they were symbolic. It was as if she was proving in one breathless vocal run that she belonged. Good Day climbed charts, dominated digital rankings, and transformed her from a struggling rookie into a national phenomenon. Suddenly, the same industry that once overlooked her was celebrating her as a vocal prodigy. The near failure of her debut did not disappear. It became part of her narrative, because success feels louder when you remember the silence that came before it. After Good Day, IU was no longer just a promising vocalist, she became a phenomenon. The public didn't simply admire her talent, they felt protective of her. Korea crowned her with a title that would define the next chapter of her life, Nation's Little Sister. It sounded affectionate, almost royal, but it came with invisible rules. She was expected to be polite, modest, innocent, and emotionally accessible. Every smile had to feel sincere, every outfit had to remain appropriate, every lyric had to avoid controversy. And for a while, she fit the role perfectly. Variety shows amplified the image. Her shy laughter, soft-spoken answers, and slightly awkward charm contrasted sharply with the louder, more performative personas dominating television at the time. She wasn't intimidating. She wasn't rebellious. She felt safe. Songs like You and I reinforced that fairy tale narrative, whimsical, romantic, nostalgic. Commercial brands lined up. From cosmetics to telecommunications, advertisers trusted her face because it reassured consumers. She was everywhere, on billboards, on music charts, on family television programs during prime time. Her digital sales were explosive, earning her the nickname Digital Monster. But beneath the glittering surface of national love was something far more fragile, an identity becoming fixed in place. The danger of a national image is that it leaves no room to grow. As she entered her 20s, the Little Sister label began to tighten around her. Artists evolve, women mature, but the public often resists change when it disrupts comfort. When she experimented subtly with more mature styling or lyrical themes, reactions became cautious. The audience who had embraced her innocence subconsciously wanted it preserved. In many ways, her success had built a golden cage. She was powerful, influential, chart-dominating, yet creatively watched at every turn. Expectations became heavier than criticism, because when millions project purity onto you, even normal adulthood can feel like betrayal. And though no one knew it yet, the very pedestal she stood on would soon become the height from which she could fall. In November 2012, the carefully built world around IU cracked in a matter of minutes. A photo was uploaded to her social media account and just as quickly deleted, but not before thousands had captured it. The image showed her alongside Eunhyuk from Super Junior. They appeared close, dressed casually, the setting intimate enough to ignite speculation instantly. There was no dramatic pose, no explicit statement, yet in the hyper-analyzed world of K-pop, context is optional when imagination is available. Screenshots spread across online forums within minutes. Headlines multiplied by the hour. The question was not whether the image was real, it was what it meant. The reaction was explosive because of who she was. A dating rumor alone would not have been unprecedented in the industry. But this was IU, the symbol of innocence, the nation's little sister. The public didn't simply consume the image, they measured it against the persona they believed in. Comment sections divided sharply. Some defended her privacy, arguing that she had the right to personal relationships. Others accused her of deception, claiming the purity had been performative all along. The contradiction between brand and reality became the story. Silence from her side, likely strategic, only intensified speculation. In Korea's fast-moving digital ecosystem, silence can feel like confirmation. What made the moment particularly brutal was timing. IU was at the peak of her popularity. Her image was tied to family-friendly endorsements and mass appeal. Brands grew cautious. Broadcasters watched closely. The industry understands that reputation is currency, and currency can collapse overnight. While no formal confirmation of a relationship was made, the agency clarified that the photo had been taken during a hospital visit when Eunhyuk was ill. For some, that explanation was sufficient. For others, doubt lingered. The ambiguity left space for rumor to breathe, but the deeper impact was internal. Scandals in K-pop are rarely just about facts. They are about narrative control. IU had built a career on emotional authenticity through music, yet her personal life was now dissected without her voice in the conversation. The pedestal she had stood on became unstable. Every future move would be scrutinized more harshly. Every concept shift would be interpreted through the lens of this controversy. The incident did not end her career, but it marked the end of something else. Unquestioned innocence. It forced her to confront a harsh industry truth. Idols are loved not only for who they are, but for who the public imagines them to be. And once that imagination fractures, rebuilding trust requires more than silence. It requires reinvention. If the scandal ended innocence, it also began authorship. After 2012, IU did not attempt to desperately restore the little sister image. Instead, she quietly began reshaping her artistic identity. The shift was subtle at first: deeper lyrical themes, more personal storytelling, greater involvement in songwriting and production. Then it became undeniable. With albums like Modern Times, she leaned into jazz influences and vintage aesthetics, signaling that she was no longer a girl being packaged, but a woman curating her own narrative. The public who once demanded purity now encountered complexity. Her songwriting became more introspective. Tracks such as Through the Night revealed emotional restraint and vulnerability, not as performance but as reflection. Later, Palette marked a defining statement of adulthood. Collaborating with G-Dragon, she openly sang about turning 25, about knowing herself more clearly, about discarding expectations that no longer fit. It was not rebellion, it was self-definition. The difference was crucial. Instead of fighting the public, she matured in front of them. And remarkably, many matured with her. Beyond music, her acting career added further dimension. In dramas like My Mister, she portrayed characters burdened by quiet despair, roles that mirrored the emotional depth she had cultivated musically. Critics who once focused solely on her idol status began acknowledging her as a serious performer. Awards followed, respect solidified. The industry that once measured her by innocence now measured her by craft. What makes her trajectory compelling is not perfection, but evolution. She did not avoid scandal. She did not escape pressure. She did not remain frozen in the comfort of public expectation. Instead, she outgrew it. Slowly, deliberately, artistically. Today, IU stands not as nation's little sister, but as one of Korea's most respected singer-songwriters, an artist whose power lies in emotional honesty. The girl who once feared silence now commands arenas. The teenager who faced indifference now shapes cultural conversations. And perhaps the most powerful transformation of all, she is no longer an image to be protected. She is a woman who tells her own story, on her own terms.